They protect us. They defend us. They help us in times of need. But they're being destroyed from within.
Last year saw more Army suicides than any year on record.
Day
Our son was just one of thousands of veterans that this country has lost to suicide.
after day
only to die here at home in their sleep.
after day.
He then used a pistol to take his own life.
There is a hidden enemy at work,
It's got to stop.
and it's hiding in plain sight. The most dangerous enemy is the one you never suspect. June 18th, 1940. Psychiatrist and Brigadier General J.R. Reese addressed the annual meeting of the National Council for Mental Hygiene with a strategic plan for psychiatry.
We must aim to make it permeate every educational activity in our national life. Public life, politics, and industry should all of them be within our sphere of influence.
But to reach their objectives, psychiatrists needed the perfect proving ground. One with an unlimited budget that could keep on growing.
It's all about money.
Billions of dollars.
It's our tax money.
A proving ground with an endless supply of human resources.
More people than any other organization in America.
These troops are the guinea pigs.
They're being experimented on.
A proving ground where every order is obeyed, no questions asked.
They have to obey those orders.
You don't have an option.
I'm legally obligated.
And a proving ground where any collateral damage would be labeled classified.
This story has been censored every step of the way.
Brigadier General Reese knew where to look.
The Army and the other fighting services form rather unique experimental groups, since they are complete communities. And it is possible to arrange experiments in a way that would be very difficult in civilian life.
It was a shrewd tactic, especially when sold under the guise of help.
And now his soldier was sick, and unless we do something for him, he may remain sick for an indefinite period of time. Gentlemen, you are not requested to treat these patients. You are directed to do so.
Psychiatrists had come a long way. Only 20 years earlier, they were almost unheard of in military life.
It wasn't until World War I that they came out of the asylums and sort of worked their way into the military. And it was a very slow, very gradual insertion.
Slow and gradual, because psychiatrists were simply not trusted, and for good reason. Their treatments were never known to be scientific. In fact, many of their experimental procedures would later be labeled torture.
One of the first uses of psychiatric treatment actually goes back to World War I, when it was used on German soldiers who were deserting and trying to leave the front because of the horrors of the trench warfare on the Western Front.
This treatment was dubbed Kaufmann Cure after its inventor, but few would have called it therapeutic. The traumatized soldier was hooked up to an electric current, which was ratcheted up until he couldn't take it any longer. During this, the practitioner laid in hypnotic suggestions.
Diese Kaufmann-Therapie wurde von den Psychiatern als Heiltherapie angewandt und eingeführt. Für die Soldaten war das alles andere als Heilung, weil es ja ein Schmerz war, der ihnen zugefügt wurde an den Gliedmaßen. Und so war wohl der wahre Grund, warum die Soldaten dann wieder an die Front gingen, nämlich, dass sie diese Schmerzen nicht mehr aushalten konnten und lieber sich in Kampfeinsatz wagten, als in der Klinik dauernd Schmerzen zu ertragen.
But the pain these soldiers suffered didn't prevent psychiatrists from continuing their experimentation into World War II. And just as before, it was not designed to help their patients overcome the trauma of war.
Zum einen war man von Seiten der Wehrmedizin im Zweiten Weltkrieg bestrebt, den Patienten noch schneller, als dies im Ersten Weltkrieg gelungen war, wieder an die Front zurückzuschicken. Das war der erste und sozusagen das entscheidende Ziel, das die Kriegspsychiatrie im Zweiten Weltkrieg hatte.
All around the world, psychiatrists used the war as an opportunity to try some very risky treatments on soldiers who had very little to say in the matter. They were electroshocking some, putting others into a deep coma, and filling yet more with powerful, mind-altering drugs. As they infiltrated further and further, they became involved in military recruitment, training, discipline, morale. They were even making opinions about the selection of officers.
Then Poole. Poole is an odd sort of man. In civilian life, he was very badly adjusted. In the personal sense, that is, he just couldn't mix, couldn't make friends.
By 1943, psychiatry had penetrated so deeply into the American military, the Navy's top psychiatrist bragged,
"Psychiatry now has a place in every step of the Navy man's career, from his induction to his eventual separation from the service."
It is because of the military that psychiatrists, they became important. You know, they're wearing a uniform now, and they've got the epaulets, and, you know, they've got some power because of the military. The military gave them that.
The United States Chief Military Psychiatrist, Brigadier General William Menninger, even wrote a manual listing all the mental problems he thought soldiers could have. But there were no blood tests, no x-rays, nothing observed under a microscope, just opinions. Scientific evidence? No, sir. But this only helped psychiatry. After all, Menninger's Army Manual provided a veneer of legitimacy, something they could use to diagnose and treat even more service members. The Army Manual was so widely used, it became the foundation for psychiatry's Bible, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM. Because of the influence of people like Menninger, by the middle of World War II, militaries around the world were buying into psychiatrists' claims that they were the mental health experts. And because of that, psychiatrists were free to try out drugs on a lot more soldiers.
The drugs of choice are the barbiturates. You will note that in combat exhaustion, massive doses of these drugs are needed in therapy.
During the Second World War, both Americans and Germans experimented with stimulants because everybody thought, well, this is great, you know, it helps you focus, it keeps you awake.
One such drug was Pervitin, which was given to German soldiers to lower inhibitions and increase aggressiveness.
Man kann sagen, dass dieser Feldzug durchaus Pervitin getränkt war, was die Wehrmachtssoldaten betrifft. Die Wehrmachtssoldaten waren für ihre Gegner unfassbar fit, sie waren unfassbar wach, sie hielten sehr, sehr lange durch, sie waren furchtlos, sie waren aggressiv und wirkten vor allem auf die Gegner wie aufgezogen.
Et il a fallu à peu près 18 mois pour que les accidents apparaissent en nombre considérable, c'est-à-dire des jeunes soldats qui brutalement se conduisaient comme des bêtes féroces, tiraient sur tout ce qui bougeait, sur les civils et sur leurs propres compatriotes. Et les accidents, les imprudences au pilotage d'avions, au pilotage de chars ont été tels que l'armée allemande a interdit l'utilisation de ces drogues à partir du milieu de l'année 42 ou 43. Et l'armée anglaise a vécu la même expérience.
Stimulants were also used by the Japanese. They gave its fighters instant courage, but at a price. The soldier pictured here was a World War II torpedo pilot.
海軍の中の特攻隊員ということで、人間魚雷で有名な回天というものの搭乗員として訓練を受け、
The mission, to be placed inside a manned torpedo that would be manually detonated when close to an enemy ship.
海軍の中ではね、とにかく先行艇部隊、先行艇による特攻を、とにかく成功させるためにということで、海軍ぐるみでっていうかね、でもってとにかく搭乗員たちにアンフェタミンを投与させて作戦行動を成功させるということがもう行われてたということですね。
Although he survived the war, the man's life was ruined.
で実際に私の叔父も、帰ってきて、復員してきてからそういった形で今度メタンフェタミンヒロポン中毒になって、で今度ヒロポンが禁止されたわけですよね。今度は何になってか、もうアルコール、もう本当にアルコールはひどかったです。私も叔父がおばにね本当に暴力を振るうシーンっていうのは何度も見てますし、だから彼自身も実際に、自殺を3度図って。
From the 50s through the 70s, psychiatrists in countries like Britain, the United States, and the USSR continued to use their militaries as proving grounds for an arsenal of new experimental treatments. American military psychiatrists used soldiers to experiment with LSD.
The squad, composed of volunteers for the test, responded like well-trained soldiers, immediately and without question. The squad, all except the drill sergeant, now drugged with LSD. After a few minutes, the men found it difficult to obey orders.
Even though they knew the dangers of this drug, British psychiatrists continued the LSD testing, this time on Marine commandos.
Unknown to the troops, the drug was added to the water on the second day. At 11:40, the first effects of the drug make their appearance. The men no longer take cover, they relax and begin to giggle. 70 minutes after the administration of the drug, with one man climbing a tree, the troop commander gives up, saying, "I cannot do anything about this. I cannot control the men and I can take no action myself. I am wiped out as an attacking force."
Soviet psychiatrists gave their soldiers God knows what.
В советской армии я служил поваром, и обычно перед обедом приходил доктор, врач, и давал нам пакетик, чтобы мы сыпанули в борщ или там в кашу и размешали. Но мы обычно говорили, что это такое. Это нормально, это витамины. Но что это такое, я не знаю. Тем более, что мы, повара, обычно свою долю вынимали из котла до того, как приходил доктор.
Up through time, soldiers continued to be given psychiatric drugs for uses never studied or approved. It's been one huge experiment.
In the Falklands campaign, air crew were given uppers and downers so that their flight duty rotas could be maximized.
We've gotten reports that the Gulf War II pilots do take amphetamines, they do take dexedrine, and that at the nighttime they're given Ambien to bring them down so they can sleep. So they're continuously on this up and down kind of scenario.
Certainly in the Iraq, Afghanistan wars, psychiatry has played a huge role, huge.
Psychiatry is now an accepted part of militaries around the world. We're told we should trust psychiatrists, that they're the authorities. Only one problem, though. Things haven't gotten better. They've only gotten worse.